draw some sales and do a pre-sale. Get some money in the door, because money is the ultimate validator. People saying that, yes, I love your stuff, that doesn't mean anything.
Create your life.
Crée ta propre vie.
Create your life.
创造你的生活。
Create your life.
Crea la tua vita.
Create your life.
Ontdek jouw leven.
You better create your life.
Create your life.
Create la vie.
Create your life.
Create your life.
Beautiful people, happy Sunday. This is the Create Your Life series. I'm your host, Kevin Y. Brown. It's a great day. Getting a little chilly in New York, but, still happy to be here, to be around, and be making some things happen here. Before we jump into today's episode of CEO Talks, where you get to hear from CEO Todd Wahnish and CEO Eric Fondren, who are two resident contributors here on the Create Your Life series, you will actually have the opportunity to catch up with yours truly, me. So here we go. Number one thing that I want to say today is that I want to give a shout out to a very, very special friend of the show. And that person is Miss Jody K. Williams. Very amazing young lady, but it is her birthday. Happy to see her turn another year and keep on doing amazing things. She's going out and she's going to pass the bar this year, 2018. She'll be a bar attorney. So, round of applause in the studio for her. Making it happen, seeing her dreams through, and she's really dedicated and on the path to making her life, creating her life. So definitely happy about that. Also, I want to touch on something that is really mattering to me right now, and that has really showed up for me in this past week, and that is for us, the importance of us getting out of our comfort zones. I know I talk about this often, and I talk about the different ways that I get out of my comfort zone because I think that it's important. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that this week I went to the National Black MBA Conference, which is for people who have a master's in business administration. Went down there to Philadelphia, caught the bus about 2 hours. And I went to this conference, on recommendation of one of my fraternity brothers. And I didn't know what I was going for, why I should really be there, but I know that he's a good person, very skilled and persuasive, to say the least, as well. So I went down, and I don't have an MBA. So I was kind of like, why am I going to this conference? I don't have an MBA. This is for people who are looking for jobs. But even in that, going down there, trusting him, I went down and I had a good time, but I also had the opportunity to talk to some different huge corporations and literally have the conversation around doing some consultant work we're talking some Fortune 50 companies. And so without having gone and stepped out of my comfort zone, being around people, because oftentimes we give a lot of credit to people for their academic successes. And while those are important, they aren't the end all be all. I got the opportunity to sit down with some of these executives and literally talk for 40 minutes. Not only did we discuss the services that I could offer, but we discussed life and the commonalities that we have and, really building. So I want you to know, even though it may seem like you might not be qualified or you might think these things of yourself, get out of your own way and jump out there and do it. And something else that I want to touch on is that, it's important for us to do the work. When I came back home, I got to talk to one of my mentors, and she and we chatted. And I said to her, now I understand what you meant years ago when you said that I wasn't ready. Because the way I walked into that conversation with those executives down at that conference and literally quoted them the prices that I felt were necessary to carry out this work, years ago I wouldn't have been confident enough because I hadn't done the work to understand my value. So I want everybody out there to really, really, really stay consistent and really do what is necessary to do the work and accomplish the work so that you can be confident in what it is that you're doing. And the last thing that I have to touch on, certainly not least by far, is I have a friend who lives in St. Croix, and she has given me an update that she would like for me to share with everyone, the Create Your Life series family and those who are friends of WACR 90.3 FM. And so I'm going to read this verbatim. It's an email that she sent. And so this is from Miss Abije Malut Sneed. She said that she's sending greetings from St. Croix, and she's hoping to get the word out about the conditions there post-Hurricane Maria in the U.S. Virgin Islands. She says she can't speak much of Puerto Rico, but from what she hears, they are in just as bad of a condition. While Hurricane Irma ravaged St. Thomas and St. John, Hurricane Maria took its toll on St. Croix. Both Category 5 hurricanes wiped through the islands with 170 miles per hour winds. She says, think of this as the same force of a pressure washer. She said currently in day 3 post-hurricane, they're without running water, power, internet, and with only some hot spots. She said they have limited communications and provisions. The Governor Kenneth Mapp, has issued curfews throughout the islands to discourage looting and unsafe driving conditions. There are a lot of telephone poles down blocking the roads and a lot of wires on the ground, some that are still hot. Many roofs have been lifted and businesses and homes destroyed. She says that her father and friends who she's been able to contact and properties are okay. Today's curfew was lifted for only 4 hours, and there was a mad dash to supermarkets and gas stations to stock up on supplies. She says that people are trying to keep it together, but it's really tough. They are not expected to get power back working for the next few months. She says that she'd gladly accept relief aid for her and the community here if she knew that the USPS was up and running. The airports are down, so not even Mercy flights are able to happen. The hospital, San Luis Hospital, there has been compromised, and they're waiting for military assistance still on day 3. A lot of members of the community have been clearing the road with machetes and anything they can get. Basically, it looks like an atomic bomb was dropped on the island and saved a few people. It's important to let folks know because there was no coverage on St. Thomas after Irma when she was actually spending time in California. So definitely, she says that I'm hoping that this correspondence can at least get people aware and focused on helping this U.S. territory. I will keep you updated as soon and as much as I can. So Create Your Life series family, we stand in solitude with those in the Virgin Islands, St. Croix, St. Thomas. Leah is actually from St. Thomas. She's a part of the Create Your Life series family. And so we're praying for everyone who is dealing with difficulties right now due to these hurricanes, and really, really want to send our well wishes. And us here at the Create Your Life series, we will definitely be sending out a care package to the islands. And so if you would like to contribute and like to donate and help out in any way possible, you can give us a call here at 212-650-6903, or you can DM us at CYL Series on Instagram. And there's that you can do it at CYL Series. You can at me at Kevin Y. Brown. Leah is at Aurelia Thomas on Instagram. And so any way that you would like to contribute and help us to help out our friends of the show, please do so. With that being said, we're going to cut to a quick musical break, and we will be back with CEO Talks for today. Beautiful people, this is the Create Your Life series. I'm your host, Kevin Y. Brown, and as you know, today is the day for CEO Talks. And with CEO Talks, it's me, myself, and then we also have the incredible Mr. Todd Wahnish here. Todd, please say hello to the Create Your Life series family.
What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for having me. It's good to be back.
Yes, and so beautiful people, as you know, on this particular day in this particular show, I actually don't get the host. Todd or Eric does, and so Todd, what is today's topic about, man? And let's get started.
All right, man. So today is actually one of my all-time favorite topics, and that is actually deciding when to launch.
Yes.
It's something that I think a lot of people dream about, especially when we're just starting out on our paths as entrepreneurs. We always have this forecast of what it's going to be like when our idea finally comes to fruition, and when we finally put that app or put that business out there and hit that launch button. And then we tend to daydream about all the financial rewards that are going to be coming our way, and all the magic and power and everything we've worked so hard for is going to come true. I love talking about this stuff, man. It's fantastic because it's it ain't all peaches and cream, but it ain't War of the Roses either. There's some good and there's some bad. Very true, very true. I think that it's definitely interesting, when you're deciding when to launch, being that that's the topic for today. Yeah, man. So my question is, what are some of the things that you as a CEO would do to prepare for a launch? What have you should have completed and gotten ready and really have a lockdown before you even contemplate putting something into a launch pattern?
Funny enough, we're doing that right now.
Nice.
Right now.
Okay.
And I would say beforehand, you're probably going to be rounding up your champions, the people that are going to be talking about the product, pubbing the product themselves, your thought leaders, people you've introduced the product to as a beta test maybe, someone who's maybe even a partner or an affiliate that can help get the message out there. Speaking of messaging, you need to know your marketing, your branding up front, the story that launch goes along with, so that narrative can be repeated over and over again in all the mediums and information forms that you're going to publicize this in. And then, obviously, the collateral. So if you're going to be launching, you're going to be giving a lot of images and content to people that they're just going to spit out over and over and over again. So you want to make sure that you've thought that through already, and it's already ready to go. Step-by-step plan of what's going to be released when. Even that's probably going to be a content drip of every 2 days, if anything, especially at the outset. You probably need a good 3 to 6 month marketing plan that's post-launch, right? So you're planning for all this information to be launched and released over a 3 to 6 month cycle, and you need to make sure that you know what's going to go out when, so it's not because it'll come quick.
You know, I'm sitting here nodding my head, right? I couldn't agree anymore.
Yeah.
In fact, when we do launches, and we do launches more and more and more, not just for other clients, but for ourselves, we've over the course of a couple years, we've started to take the attitude that what our startup does is launch, instead of the traditional way of seeing a startup as a product,
Right.
We actually see our startup as launching many startups.
Right.
So we've started to model video game companies.
Every
right?
game is a new
Every
release.
Every game is a new startup,
project.
a project, new startup, new business opportunity.
Right.
And because of that, what we end up doing is we have a launch calendar. If we're going to launch something, we plan anywhere from 4 to 6 months, and we have multiple phases. We have the pre-launch, we've got the pre-launch,
Right.
we've got the launch,
Right.
we've got the post-launch,
Right.
and sometimes there's even a post-launch, right?
All these phases.
Everything, and just to put it in context, and it's different depending on what the actual product is that we're launching at any given time, but the overall structure is the same. And the example that I like to give is on our last launch for a product. We sent out, the launch period was a 10-day launch window, from cart open to cart close, and that doesn't include the pre-launch, that doesn't include the
Right.
post-launch
Right.
with downsells and everything else, and we sent over 85 emails in 10 days
Wow.
to multiple segments, to
Okay.
multiple people, multiple times a day.
Right.
And if you would try to have that, if you had just
These
woken
are
up
85 separate emails, not
85
necessarily
separate emails.
85 separate email recipients.
Correct.
Right.
Thousands of email recipients, 85 separate emails to thousands of people multiple times a day. And if we had just woken up on day one and said, okay, launch day's today, let's start writing this thing, like it would have been a nightmare. So we had that all written out in advance. It's all Google Docs and it's all shared, and we go over it. And if something happens that way also we can take the temperature of the launch. If something happens in the middle of a launch or something pops up, which often happens, sometimes you put something out there that you think is just going to be a standard part of this launch cycle, and all of a sudden it just hits, and people just love it. And you're like, oh dang! Like,
How do we capitalize?
How do we capitalize? Do we need to wrap that up as a separate product and add it as a bonus or something, or how can we? Maybe we save that to later. Like, by having everything prepared in advance, that actually allows you to be a little bit. It allows you that freestyle that you need on the fly to be able to rewrite something or to redirect something.
Right, because a launch really is an extended marketing push with your clientele. It's an extended proactive conversation. You're constantly giving them something to give you feedback on. Whereas, your product just in general, it may have feedback portions, or may have times of the year where you're doing reviews. But a launch is when you're basically opening the floodgates and allowing the customers to come at you in full force. And so you have to be able to get out the tediousness out the way so that you can receive that feedback and actually act on it.
Yeah, 100%. And tell me if you agree with this. This is something that I find a lot of younger entrepreneurs, people who are just kind of coming in, there's an ideal surrounded by the launch. and that it's a finite, once in a lifetime
Right.
thing. We
Right.
everyone reads the blogs, they read the splashy articles, they see photos of like people with champagne and gigantic parties.
Right.
I've been to plenty of those where you're just
Right.
like, you guys are just launching an app. How much did you spend on this party? Like,
Listen.
Very
really?
true.
Like, how many developers could you have hired? You know, all right, if that's the way you want to go.
When really the launch is just
Ongoing.
as much hard work, but it's just the beginning of the story.
It's just the beginning of the story, and it's not a one-time event.
No, not at all.
From the way I always look at it is anytime somebody is exposed to your product or your service for the first time, that's a launch for them.
Right.
Right?
Well, that's a
It
great
doesn't
way to
matter.
put
It
that.
doesn't matter whether they've come through a lead magnet online or an email opt-in or a TV commercial or a radio commercial. It doesn't matter. That is somebody's first instinct. That's somebody's first interaction with your brand, and you have to understand that it's always going to be a launch for everybody. So you can take out some of the fear that I think a lot of people have from launching when you understand that you're launching all the time. We launch products over and over and over. Whenever you do a sale on your product, what do? You try to hype it up. You try to get the buzz going again. The sales and the discounts and the coupons and the winter sales and the Christmas sales and the Cyber Monday and all that. Those are all launches, and that's why these businesses have those launches, because they always need to bring the hype. Because if you only had that hype once when you're launching, man, ain't nobody gonna see that. Like,
That's very
come
true.
on.
The momentum needs to continue. And you said something interesting where you were just basically listing out all the holidays of the year. And that really speaks to the fact that you have to get into a groove. You have to build a pattern around it and really stick to that pattern. What if it's a 3-month cycle or a 6-month cycle? I was listening to the radio the other day, and they were talking about the Bronner Brothers show. And they were, how long in advance do you start to plan for the next show? And they were like, 6 months in advance. And so we basically have a 30-day window in between the launch of one show and the planning, or the end of one show and the planning for the very next one. So you're basically always in planning mode for your launches and your reiterations or whatever the case is. So the process is absolutely necessary. What's the standard operating procedures that have to go into place, right, Kevin?
SOPs, man. You know how that goes. But I think you guys are touching on something. So you talk about the planning, right? How important that is. I think one of the other things, Todd, and you and I have been having a lot of discussions about this lately, that customer development. How much time before launching do you want to spend on customer development? What do you guys think about that?
Well, I think that obviously it's very subjective to what it is you're launching and who your customer is. Very subjective. So in my market, my launches are really partner affiliated introductions, to lack of a better word. Basically, I go to the top level person who has distribution across hundreds of thousands of ATMs, and then they'll just chain me down the line. And that's really my soft launch. When I get one really good client out of that soft launch, then I can take them as a case study and a testimonial to the harder launch with collateral and marketing materials at conferences, all of that type of stuff. So I think that for my product specifically in my industry, word of mouth is absolutely necessary, and so customer development on at least one high value target is required before launch.
Yeah, and I would add that I agree that it's completely subjective as to when the right time is to launch. It really is different for everybody. But the reason it's different for everybody is because every audience is different.
Right.
And it depends on your audience.
Right.
If you can sometimes drum up a lot of excitement based on who you are as a person and what you're delivering and the value that you're providing. And if you can, the faster that you can do that, the faster you can launch. So it really depends on the audience temperature. There are definitely some milestones and some things that we use as a guide, like we will not launch before this. So
what are some of those milestones?
So for us, we have a certain number of goals, right? So for us, I try to have at least an audience of 1,000 people in any given market, minimum, because at 1,000 people, I know that depending on the product, it depends whether it's a software product or an info product or a course. But I can be conservative with my numbers and say, okay, out of in
10% conversion rate.
Not even. You don't even need that. So an example, a real example for course launches, which I love. They're a lot of work to do up front, but they really pay dividends for years and years and years. And when when you're setting up your launch and you're setting up your goals for that launch, the industry standard of conversion is about 2%.
Right.
And that doesn't include webinars. That doesn't include things that can boost that conversion.
Right.
But what you're really looking for as a goal is 2% conversion. So if I have 1,000 people on an email list and they're excited and they like what I've been saying, and through that conversation, I can say, oh, they're really going to be, I think they're going to be really interested in this. I'm positive that they're going to like this.
Right.
Then you have a number. You have a goal that you can set. So a 2% conversion might only be 20 people.
Right.
Right. But 20 people, if your course is $1,000, you just made 5 figures.
Right.
Right. And that's very achievable and that's very doable. And then there's other things you can wrap around that to make it a package, to create upsells and other things of value so that you can increase your revenue and you can try to get beyond that 2% conversion.
Right.
Or make that 2% conversion, average cart value.
Right.
You can make that cart value higher.
Right.
But if I start with a specific number and I go into it saying, okay, we have an audience of X, I know the conversion number for Y, the course that they're going to like is Z, then that sets me up for a guide.
Right.
Milestones.
I think one important part to remember is how large your customer base is, but also how much it costs to acquire them, and then how much their lifetime value is. I don't think that most entrepreneurs start out thinking about customer acquisition costs and lifetime value, but ultimately it's going to be indicative of how much you're actually going to spend on marketing, because you don't want to overspend what you're actually going to get back. And then you're also going to want to be able to say that you're not going to spend too much time trying to close a client, because overall, over their lifetime, they won't be profitable as well. And so that really comes down to what is it you're selling, how much does it cost to make, how much can you sell it for, what are your margins. All of that really comes into play at the outset, not really after you have after you've gotten a business running and you have an audience, then any new product you build needs to be economically viable.
Can you break it down just for some of the Create Your Life series who might just be tuning in right now? How do you really figure out what your customer acquisition cost is going to be based on those 4 things that you named?
Well, let's keep it simple, right? So let's say you purchased a distribution list of 1,000 people and it cost you $1,000. That means every name on that list costs you $1. Say your product is a 99-cent monthly fee, right? And it's a 12-month program or something like that. So you're going to make $12 over the course of a year for one person.
Right.
So your customer acquisition cost is $1. Their lifetime value is $12. So your profit margin on that person is $11 over the course of 1 year. Now, if it takes you longer to acquire that customer, or they spend less time in the program, or they fall off, then their average lifetime value may dip to $6, may dip to $4, but your margins are still high enough for you to actually pay that $1 up front.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and for me, ours is a little different. I have a problem with lifetime value, and I have had that problem for a long time. It's an important number to know. You have to know your numbers. Lifetime value, LTV, is one of them. The problem when you're starting out or when you're doing a launch is how do you know your lifetime value when you don't have a customer, right? I've had my first customer. Great. He's been a customer for a week. How do I know what the lifetime, am I going to wait 6 months? Like, how do I know when he's going to drop off or churn? I don't know. So what we do is we look at lifetime value of the customer in the long term, but in the short term, what we need is average cart value. And there's a something that really brilliant marketers, much smarter than I, got together and figured out. And there's a saying that says amateurs focus on the front end and professionals focus on the back end. And what that means is most people and most businesses, and this is even big businesses, focus on the front end. That means you come in, you find a product, you buy it, bye-bye, right? Marketers, because a lot of them, the original marketers, and even to this day, a lot of them have started as bootstrappers. Essentially what happens is they have to pay for all this themselves. They're all bootstrappers. Right. So what they do is they look at that cost to acquire a customer and they say, okay, well, this it cost me $7 to acquire a customer. So on the front end, I'm going to have, let's say, an ebook or a physical book. It doesn't matter. Something for $7, $8, right? So what happens is that person who buys that book, that one-time offer, has just broken even for all the people who didn't buy. And then anybody beyond that, or any sale beyond that, is 100% profit. So you get the people that pay for that first product to pay for all the people that come into that funnel that will never buy.
Right.
And then everybody that passes that gate to the back end, the upsell courses, the getaways, the mastermind groups, whatever it is, enterprise software, whatever it is, those people, once you get people past that gate, then it's 100% profit. The margins are much, much higher because the people pay for the ad spend that it costs to get them, and they pay for the people that will never buy from you.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Well, with that being said, beautiful people, we are going to cut to a musical break. And before we do that, I want to announce to you that we actually have tickets to a dress rehearsal for a play at the Apollo this week. And the name of this Apollo is Moved. And it is about gentrification here in the Harlem community. So if you would like to win these tickets, then call in 212-650-6903. Also, the first 5 people who sign up for our mailing list on our website will be awarded these tickets, and you will be able to pick them up from us this week.
Hi, I'm Diane. I have a daughter, Nikki, and she's a senior at high school. She just got accepted for early decision into college. Prior to taking Kevin's program, we were pretty overwhelmed because her college debt after her merit scholarships looks like it's going to be about $150,000 in 4 years. Feeling pretty overwhelmed about that $150,000 potential debt, I decided to enroll in Kevin's debt-free College Academy full course program. And I have to say the value for the money for what we got out of the program was absolutely amazing. Kevin takes you step by step with many, many different tips and many different strategies for not only the student, but for us as parents, for our student, things that we can do to really help save money and prepare.
If you or your child are looking to save money on college costs, sign up for Debt Free College Academy today at debtfreecollegeacademy.com using coupon code FREECOLLEGE.
Soundtrack courtesy of Purple Planet Music.
All right, beautiful people. Glad to have you back. We're here with CEO Talks. This is Eric Fondren. And so we're kicking it off with the last few questions here. And to Todd, what is a soft launch, and in what scenario would a soft launch be preferred over a hard launch?
Sure. So I always try to use some form of soft launch. You want to dip your toe into the water before you jump into the deep end, you know? So for us, we use something that it's a modified version of Jeff Walker's seed launch.
Okay.
Jeff Walker has a book out there called Launch. He's incredible. It's a great launch type of sequence. But one of the things that he recommends and that we started to do years ago was something called the seed launch. And essentially what the seed launch is it's a small bite-sized launch that you can do quick.
Right.
So you're not trying
quick,
to...
What's the time frame for quick?
It varies, but it essentially what you want to do is you want to avoid... perfection is the enemy of done and completion. And it doesn't matter whether you're doing a course or an info product or a software product. We all have the tendency to put the polish. You want to spit shine it. You want it to be beautiful. It's your baby, and God forbid, you want everyone to love it as much as you do. So the seed launch is just a different. It's a way to launch a minimum viable product.
Okay.
So so it varies depending on whether it's software or for an info product. But for a courseware or course product, what you would want to do is you would want to go ahead and do a quick launch, draw some sales, and do a pre-sale.
Mm-hmm.
Get some money in the door because money is the ultimate validator. People saying that yes, I love your stuff, that doesn't mean anything. So true. Right? You need to get people to open their wallets, pull out their credit card, and pay you for that. And then once you have it, that's when you start creating the product. Right. You have the outline done, and you've pitched the sales page. You've pitched what you want to sell, but you haven't made anything really. I mean, I prefer not to do anything because I don't want to waste my time. Some people will do like a couple small things just so they have a jump in case something starts selling. But you don't make the whole product and then try to sell it.
So in this scenario, you're using a soft launch or a seed launch almost as a market experiment, market test.
100%. Yeah, exactly. It's a pre-sale. So you'd get the pre-sale in, and then when you have that small audience who's ready to purchase this from you, if it's something like a course, what you can do is you say, okay, well, this course is going to go over a period of 6 weeks. You guys get the benefit of, because I'm recording this, everyone else is going to get the pre-recorded version, but for you guys, it's actually going to be live. And that means you get live mentorship with me as a bonus. That's the upsell. That's the benefit. I will help you directly one-on-one with whatever your problems are, and nobody else gets that.
Right.
And that is the exchange
Incentive
for you.
to
That's the
come early.
incentive for you to come early. You get the discounted. Usually, it's a discounted price on the product.
Right.
And then we can work together to help you on your business, and you're helping me. And a lot of times, what you see with these types of seed launches for videos or courses is that the product is live. It's just a Google Hangout, and
Right.
I got my notes up there, and I got some really ugly slides, and I'm just
Right.
reading the slides. And essentially what you do is, even though you have an outline of what that product is going to be, the people who have purchased from you, I'll go ahead and send them a questionnaire. Say, okay, the first module, the first course is going to be about validation.
Mm-hmm.
What are your questions about validation?
Right.
And, well, they've paid money for this course, so they're going to send me their questions about validation. So then when I go to make this module, this lesson, I'm just answering their questions.
Right.
So
It's also content creation.
it's content creation, but I'm not making it up. The people who paid me money, I'm answering their questions, so they're always going to be satisfied. And then after that lesson is over, I follow it up and say, well, next week's problem is going to be, I don't know, how to launch, right? But if there's anything I didn't cover in validation, or if you have any other questions that pop up over the weekend, I know sometimes in live it's hard to come up with things, you're going to think about things, send them to me and I will answer them. So what happens is you're just building a database of questions that people have actually asked about this problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times what also happens is that when you're always 10 steps ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You already have that business. You're already growing your business. You already know these steps. So you forget sometimes that it's just about learning how to ride a bike. So a lot of times these questions that people ask, you wouldn't even thought of because they're so basic. Because you did them years ago.
Right.
And doing it with software for us is almost the same way, where we'll ask people to do a pre-sale, and then the benefit is that we usually treat it like a white label service, where we will build whatever you want. Right? It's almost like a Groupon,
Mm-hmm.
right? We got 10 people. Awesome. They're paying us this much. You guys get whatever you want. And then as we continue to develop and do a full launch to everybody else, you guys get free updates forever, right? So you are purchasing this at a discount, big discount, and you get everything.
Yeah, it's really important to find that product market fit. Being able to say that this is a finite purchasable entity or commodity, and someone's actually going to purchase it at market. It's not just something that looks nice on the shelf, it's wonderful, but someone's actually going to buy it in market. And it seems like you've solved that problem by having the consumers help you build the product ahead of time, so their real needs are wrapped up in it. I think that's really important. A lot of times people will build in a dungeon, build in a lab, never talk to consumers, then come out the door and say, why isn't this selling?
Okay, so Create Your Life series family, Eric is secretly talking about me. I have my hand raised in the studio right now.
Yeah.
I will admit that I definitely built a product in a vacuum in a dungeon once upon a time, and I have had some success with the product, but it has not been as successful as I thought it would have been. And it was because I didn't go out and do the customer development or the seed launch, and there are lots of things to still learn about this product. Now, I do believe that I could relaunch it if that was my focal point, which it's not. But I would strongly encourage you
Executive judgment.
to listen to this episode and do everything that Todd and Eric are telling you, because I can personally attest to the fact that it was a bomb.
This is something that we've all done, though. Everybody.
Absolutely.
I mean,
I've done it so many times.
My first big launch for our first startup, I was determined not to fail.
Yeah.
I had already launched products and physical goods and fashion and toys. I'd done a lot of stuff, but this was my first software product. And I was like, I'm not failing this. I've done this a lot in other mediums. I'm not going to fail. So I did everything by the book. I interviewed 150 people in my market. And I said, would you buy it? What do you think about it? What problems are you having? All this. And I think 98% were like, yes, I want this. When it comes out, I'm gonna yes, just let me know. I'm in. Oh, you're in? I'm in, 100%. Let's do it. And we went, and based off of that, I said, man, we're gonna make a killing off of this. Like, everybody loves it. Oh my God, we're the only ones thinking about this. So we went out, we built the software product, we put everything into it. I knew the market intimately because it was part of my background. So I knew exactly what features to put in.
Yeah.
We launched it, crickets. Nobody. And I went back to those 150 people, and I said, hey, so we launched it. It's live. Come on in. Look, you get a discount. And they're like, oh, I gotta, yeah. No, dude. I'm on. I gotta wait for my next paycheck.
Right.
You're gonna hear from me.
Right.
And I was, from that point on, it was like, until somebody pays me, I'm not building anything. Done.
Especially with software, you can burn those wheels for so long.
Dude.
Oh man.
Oh man,
Without
I burned the wheels.
Any light at the end of the tunnel.
I burned the wheels off. The wheels were disintegrated, man. No more wheels. And I completed the program. It got stolen out of my rental car on my laptop. And I recreated the program.
Listen.
I guess I should have been listening to God because he was trying to tell me, though, you're building in a vacuum. And then I went back and rebuilt the same thing. I completed it. And it was on the computer, man. And then I had to go back. I went back and did it again. So, yeah, that's life.
That's all right, though.
So I got a question.
Yeah.
What would you say are the top 3 to 5 major things a business should have in place before launching?
Definitely a marketing plan, like a 3 to 6 month marketing plan. Who are you going to speak to? Who are you going to release information to? Where are you going to be either branding or advertising? Where are you going to be developing your thought leadership, in terms of putting your content out there? Your product is wrapped in content. That's really what all thought leadership is. It's supposed to tie back to you ultimately. So really your marketing plan has to be in place. Secondly, obviously who it is you're going to be distributing the product to. So how you're going to communicate with them. And this is the actual customer base. So not just finding new customers, but once they're actually in the funnel, how are you going to consistently communicate to them? So that sales funnel communication plan has to be in place. And that's different from your marketing plan. Your marketing plan is to get people into the funnel. Your communication plan is to get them through the funnel. And then, of course, the delivery of the product. I think people actually forget this one because they think they built the product and then it's just going to be easy. People are going to be knocking down the door. I can sell, and figure out the rest later. How are you distributing that product actually? If it's a software product, how are you protecting it from being copied? If it's software in the cloud, how are you giving access that's secure? If it's a tangible product, how are you shipping that out the door consistently? Do you have a drop ship partner or whatever the case is? So you want to make sure that you've, or at least in my mind, know how to get people in your funnel, get people through your funnel, and then get them the product at the end of the funnel.
And I would second that. I think you hit on some incredible points. For me, I would add 2 other things, and that is customer service and getting ready for that, and knowing that the problem you're trying to solve is something that really needs solving and that people want solved. So on the customer service side, you need to, before you go into it, you need to know how you're going to handle those emails when people call or people email and say, hey, I didn't get this, or when is this coming, or why didn't this work, or how does this work, and how you're going to...
How does this work?
How does this work?
Because people... You think it's intuitive?
No matter how clear a giant arrow pointing to that button, you're still going to get people. Yeah, you're still going to get people asking about it. And also, how do you handle refunds? How do you handle people who sign up if it's a subscription service? How do you handle when people sign up for 12 months at whatever the price is and then drop out after 3 months?
Right.
Or they use a card that magically caps out and all of a sudden you can't get your charge through. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And on the other side is before all of that is recognizing, before you try to jump into pre-sales and before you try to jump into the launch, is really looking at that problem and trying and making sure that this is a problem that people actually want solved. And so for me, I make sure that there's competitors. I will not move into a market if there isn't somebody already in there. Hopefully multiple people. And that goes against common thinking. Everyone thinks that, no one else is doing this, that means it must be good. No, that means that someone's tried it and failed. Yeah. You don't want to be, you can always tell the pioneer by the number of arrows in their back. You don't want to be, you know what I mean? You don't want to be the first person on land getting shot up. You want to stand on the shoulders of giants. You don't want to be MySpace. You want to be Facebook.
Right.
You don't want to be Netscape or anyone or Lycos. You want to be Google.
Right.
Right. So you have to be able to go in and see that there are other human beings out there spending money for something that is similar to what I'm thinking about making. You might have a unique selling position, which you should have to make yourself unique, but how many diet plans are out there? Thousands?
Millions.
Millions. Like
to be.
how many
thousands.
exercise programs are there out there?
Right.
When the goal is the same, what makes them different is the unique way that each individual entrepreneur and each individual founder goes about it.
Right.
But if they went out there and said, "Man, I've got this exercise program." Oh, you mean somebody else did an exercise program? Dang, I guess that means I can't do it. Like, no, like you don't even think about it. But for software and startups, we tend to think it has to be such a unique idea, such a beautiful little butterfly. And I'm here to tell you that for me, I want to make sure that there's at least a couple of people that are crushing it, because then I can say, man, if we only get 0.2%, if we're just horrible and I'm lazy,
right,
and we're just part-time in this, then I know that there's people that are still going to be attracted to this if I pitch it the right way.
The market's large enough for you to actually go into it.
Right. I'm looking for a layup. You know?
Makes sense.
I think it's important to figure out ahead of time, outside of your friends and family. I go back to this because I think it's some entrepreneurs run into all the time. Your friends and family are going to be your cheerleaders regardless of whether or not your product sucks or not. They're going to say, "Oh, that's wonderful. Look at all the hard work you're putting in. Good for you." But ultimately, you want to speak to people that either you do not know, who don't look at you as, cool because you're doing that off the beaten path entrepreneurship gig.
Right.
You speak to somebody that has some skin in the game in terms of what you're trying to sell them. Because if they have a real need, they'll probably be honest with you about how you can meet that need. And those are the people that'll help you build a product and reach that product market fit that's necessary before you ever launch a thing or even think about launching a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and I think that's actually a really important thing to say, and that is you have to begin to talk to people who do not know you, and they already have skin in the game because there's a problem that they have to solve. And it's up to you as the entrepreneur to also realize that by you taking that step back and saying, this is a problem that I want to solve, whether you recognize it or not, you have actively removed yourself from that problem. You are no longer in the universe of the problem. You've decided to solve that problem.
Right.
So you no longer can see that problem
you don't relate
clearly.
to it as
You
much.
cannot, the minute you make the decision to solve that problem for other people, you are not in the problem. You do not have clarity on what that problem
Interesting
is
psychology
because you have
point.
already made the decision to solve
it means
it.
you have to go back to the audience.
You have to.
And stay in touch with
That
them
was
in order
that
to
was
stay
the,
grounded.
That was the mistake that I made with that first startup. I knew the market so well because I had been in it for so long, and my problem is that I didn't understand. I knew what I needed at my point in life for that specific problem.
Right.
And once I built that solution, the solution worked. I used it for myself. It was great. I made money for myself using that software product. But for the people that came in, they were so buried in that problem still that they couldn't see the solution. So the solution that I provided was like 3 steps ahead.
Right. Wow. I don't think about it in that way, but it's important to, to frame it that way because ultimately you become, it's like when you're making too much money and from a socioeconomic level, you lose touch with the people that are a little lower than you on the rung. And the only way to stay in touch is to go back into that community, go back into that environment and realize the humanity of others. You have to realize the lack when it comes to that problem and with the individuals that you're trying to solve it for by staying engaged with them, staying in touch with them, and understanding what it is that they go through on a day-to-day basis. Otherwise, you just feel like, why aren't you eating off my hand? This is the greatest thing since sliced bread right here.
Right, and that's why it's important when you have that entrepreneurial spark. You might be at your day job, you might be on working with a client, and instantly that spark hits you of something that you need to create, and you think it's going to be a hit because you need it so bad. But just having that spark has removed you from the problem because by definition of someone looking for a problem means they have not solved it for themselves. If you have theoretically come up with a solution, you are already thinking about ways to solve a problem that other people have not gotten to yet. So it is important for you to step out and say, at the minute that spark hits, it's important to step out and say, oh, this could be something, but let me talk to other people who have not realized what I have realized and find out, A, if it's a real problem, and B, prove that it's a real problem by them giving me $1, $20, $100, whatever it is, cash money to say, no, I want this. Here's $20, put me on the list. If they can't do that, or if people are not willing to do that, you should not do anything because we put money down
Yeah.
and we do pre-sales all day and night. I mean,
Right.
everybody, when you run a hotel room, you're doing a pre-sale.
Right.
You don't know the hotel's going to be there. Right?
Nice.
True.
Good logic, man.
That's true. Yeah, I think it's important, the way we're talking about marketing plans and whatnot, I think that people don't realize how much it requires you to be an executor and a brand manager. So being the voice as well as the feet on the operation, keeping it moving forward because it's so execution oriented. It's very timeline oriented, and you have to make sure things fall in place in order for it to go. So it's, we'll come back to everything in terms of getting your marketing plan tight and executing on point. But right now, we're just going to hit a little music break, and we'll come back to you in a couple.
Beautiful people, this is the Create Your Life series. I'm your host, Kevin Y. Brown. We are back, CEO Talks. You have had the opportunity to hear from Eric Fondren, CEO of Itelio, and Todd Wahnish, CEO of Clever Era. And they have just been blessing us with all of this information and game around launching, how to decide when to launch, a little bit about pivoting, and definitely not building in a vacuum, which is something, of course, that we all admitted to doing at one point. So that being said, we're wrapping up today's show, and I want Eric and Todd to just tell you where you can stay in contact with them at as far as social media, and then we also have a couple announcements for you.
Yeah, so for me, anyone interested in what we're working on, they can just go to cleverera.com. That's CLEVERERA.com. It's just a single landing page. There's a button on there. You can click up on it and get on the email list, and we'll stay in touch with you. And we're going to be, over the next coming months, actually, we're going to be launching a lot of original content, a lot of free value for anybody interested in actually taking their game to the next level and getting their stuff out there and building a life on the things that they make.
Yes.
Absolutely, and you can find information about Itelio at Itelio, that's ITELL.io. And then you can find information about me. You can find me on LinkedIn, Eric in Fondren, as well as on Twitter, Eric in Fondren as well. And you'll see us. We're looking to engage with you in the out-of-home space, so being a digital out-of-home advertising company. So you'll be seeing us in a few high-quality retail venues soon. You'll be able to engage with our screens and really interact in the out-of-home space. So look forward to seeing that out in the New York City area.
Okay. Well, beautiful people, you heard it here first, and this is the Create Your Life series. Happy Sunday. Looking forward to connecting with you next week. Be blessed. Beautiful people, if you enjoyed this episode of the Create Your Life series, be sure to download it from our podcast, which is available on createyourlifeseries.com, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Google Music. Also, be sure to leave a review of the podcast. You can catch us live on Sundays from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via 90.3 FM in New York. We encourage you to participate in the conversation. Call in at 212-650-6903. Follow us on Instagram at CYL Series and at Kevin Y. Brown. Be blessed, and we'll see you back here live next week.
Create your life.
Crée ta propre vie.
Create your life.
创造你的生活。
Create your life.
Crea la tua vita.
Create your life.
You better create your life.
Create your life.
Great love you.
Create your life.
Create your life.
Beautiful people, happy Sunday. This is the Create Your Life series. I'm your host, Kevin Y. Brown, and